Hi, Job Guarantee callers. Today is September 24th, 2024. And I'm going to tell you a story today about how money works. Basically a true story. It's called the Hut tax. Back in the 1800s, one of the European colonialist powers went to Africa with the intention of starting some coffee plantations and growing coffee for export. They brought with them two things: weapons, and number two, a stack of paper bills, like coupons. Let's call them pounds. And they had numbers on them and the picture of the ruler of the country. And so let's call these pounds. And they said to the people who were there were people living there already, and but they were a non-monetary society. They hunted or they raised stuff for themselves, and they built things from nature, their huts and so forth. And the colonialists said to them, okay, we'll pay you 30 of these if you give us a month's work on the coffee plantations. And people said, well, what do we need these for? So the colonialist power said, well, we forgot to mention that unless you give us 30 of these, we'll burn down your hut. Okay, and they had the guns and so forth to prove it. So they got all the people that they needed to work the plantations and raise the coffee and do all the work necessary. And so that was the way the colonial government bought the provisions to produce what they wanted to produce. Now, how many of these pounds did they create? They created plenty so that everybody had enough to pay for their hut tax, and they printed some extras because people would lose them or save them or use them to pay each other in case they couldn't work on the plantation. Maybe they did something for somebody who could, and that was how they monetized. So the whole economy became monetized. Now, what was the right amount of pounds to produce for their government to issue? The right amount was enough so that they got all of the plantation work done that they wanted to be done, and all of the people got enough of these pounds to pay their taxes. That's the correct amount. And so they had necessarily, because people saved some or put them in their pockets or lost a few, they had to issue more than they took back in tax. That's called a deficit, but there was nothing wrong with it. If people presented them with a pound, they would consider that their taxes had been paid. So today, that's basically the way that money works. The central government imposes a tax, and then it requires you to pay the tax in a currency that they issue, which is basically a coupon for the payment of taxes. The government can produce as many of those as it wants at virtually no cost. There's only three things that they need to keep in mind: inflation, unemployment, and distribution. You want to keep inflation low, you want to keep unemployment low, and you want what the government produces with its spending, what the government buys with its spending, you want that to be distributed among the people fairly and equitably. All right, so that's the story of money and the hut tax. Please call your senator or your representative this week and tell them you think the job guarantee is a great idea, because everybody should have the opportunity to earn these coupons that they need to get by in our monetized society. And while you're at it, tell them to do what they can to put pressure on Israel to stop this terrible war in Gaza. Thanks for making the calls, and thanks for everything you do to make our world a better place. Bye-bye.